because this song, as we're entering into Radhashtami, it's appropriate that we are studying the confidential reasons that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, and also that we're looking to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita to understand Srimati Radharani, because if anyone approaches Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is very merciful, Yata Yata Gaura Padara Vinde, the Srila Bilvamangal Thakur says in his Krishna Karnamrita that when you surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you can understand Radha and Krishna. So, to try to independently understand Radha and Krishna is not possible. It's only through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this song, Gaurangera Dutipada, we'll find that Narottam Das Thakur says that, translation first. Anyone who has accepted the two lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya as his only asset knows the true essence of devotional service. So this accepting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet as the only asset is known as a Kinchana Gochara. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Queen Kunti says that only those who have taken full shelter of Krishna and have no other asset in this world can actually attract Krishna's attention. He goes on to say, the heart of anyone who gives submissive oral reception to the pleasing and sweet pastimes of Lord Chaitanya immediately becomes cleansed of all material contamination. So this is called submissive oral reception, back to one. If someone gives submissive back to one, submissive oral reception back to one, gives submissive oral reception to the pleasing and sweet pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, immediately becomes cleansed of all material contamination. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but he's appeared in such a way that our minds become immediately attracted to him. In the Mahabharata it is said, Suvarna Varna Hemango Varnangashan Janangadi Sanyasa Krishama Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayanaha. Hemango, the limbs of Lord Chaitanya are golden, very beautiful. And his pastimes are enchanting to hear. So this is the means of approaching Radha and Krishna, to become absorbed in hearing about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kaviraj Goswami says in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that you should hear these pastimes again and again until that attachment arises within your heart. Two. Anyone who simply chants the name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, everyone say, give it another shot, will immediately develop love of Godhead. The other day when we were at a corporate program, afterwards we had a japa session, and many people in the japa club there were saying that sometimes it's hard for them to chant japa. Then I taught them the mantra, Nitai Gaura Haribol. And they all said, Nitai Gaura Haribol. And they all started smiling. And they said, what is that mantra? And they felt very blissful. And I said, if you chant that mantra before you chant Hare Krishna, then you'll very easily be able to chant Hare Krishna and be attracted. So this is the idea of approaching Radha and Krishna before we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We say Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. So he goes on to say, I offer him all congratulations by saying, bravo. If one feels ecstasy and cries by simply hearing the transcendental qualities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he at once understands the eternal loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. So this is the proof positive that by just becoming absorbed in hearing about Lord Chaitanya, chanting Lord Chaitanya's names, then one will automatically understand the eternal loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. This is the great gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought to this world. Otherwise, Radha and Krishna are very, very difficult for anyone to understand. 3. Anyone who has understood that the associates of Lord Chaitanya are eternally liberated souls immediately becomes eligible to enter into the abode of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, in his next birth. If anyone understands that there is no difference between Gauda Mandala, the place in West Bengal, wherein Lord Chaitanya had his pastimes, and the transcendental abode of Sri Vrindavan Dham, then he actually lives in Vrindavan. 4. Anyone who takes pleasure in sporting within the waves of the ocean of Lord Chaitanya's distribution of love of God immediately becomes a confidential devotee of Sri Sri Radha Madhava. It doesn't matter whether such a devotee is in the renounced order of life or whether he is a householder. If he is actually taking part in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan activities and actually understanding what it is, then such a person is always liberated. Narottam Das aspires for his association. Gaurangera Duti Pada Jadhana Sampada Gaurangera Dhutipada Jadhana Sampada Sejane Bhakati Rasasara Sejane Bhakati Rasasa Sejane Bhakati Gaurangera Madhur Lila Jarkane Pravishila Gaurangera Madhur Lila Jar Karne Praveshila Hridoyam Nirmala Bhelotara Hridaya Nirmala Belota Jai Gaurange Namaloy. Sorry. Jai Gaurange Namaloy Taroy Primadoy Jai Gaurange Namaloy Tare Mui Jai Bolihari Go Gauranga Gunete Jure Nitya Lilaktaris Pure Se Janna Bhakati Adhikari Se Janna Bhakati Adhikari Gaurangera Shangigane Nitya Siddha Karimane Se Jaya Brajendra Sutapa Shri Gauda Mandala Bhumi Jeba Jane Chintamani Tar Hoy Raja Bhumi Ba Tara Hoya Braja Tara Hoya Braja Bhumi Bhas Gaura Prema Rasarnave Shetarange Jeva Dhube. What does Dhube mean? Hey, good. Gaura Prema Rasarnave Shetarange Jeva Dhube. Drenched in the tarange, the waves, right? Tarange is waves. Antaranga Shri Radha Madhava Shri Radha Madhava Antaranga Grihe Baba Nete Take Hagoranga Bole Dake. Doesn't matter whether such a devotee is in the renounced order of life or Grihasta. Grihe Baba Nete Take Hagoranga Bole Dake. Narottama Mage Tarashanga Narottama Mage Tarashanga Narottama Mage Tarashanga Grihe Baba Nite Take Hagoranga Bole Dake. Grihe Baba Nite Take Hagoranga Bole Dake. Grihe Baba Nite Take Hagoranga Bole Dake. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Avantika Harmonium for the kartal players, Hare Krishna singers, for the vase maker in the back, for everybody in the kitchen, for the devotees walking outside, for everybody in California, everybody all over the world. Go pray Manande. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Hansapriya is getting ready for the spiritual world. That's what they do there, to make garlands and vases. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Let's bring everyone's attention to the fact that there are 8 or 9 more days till Bhadra Purnima. Which one? 8 or 9? It's on the 24th. We have engineers in here. I figured I'd ask. Huh? 8 days only. 8 days, 15 hours. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna's incarnation in the age of Kali Yuga. You have to have Srimad Bhagavatam in your home. You have to also give Srimad Bhagavatam to everybody you know. Buy Srimad Bhagavatam, invest in Srimad Bhagavatam, take money out of the bank, out of your savings, out of your mattress, and buy Srimad Bhagavatam. And don't keep it there, because one day you'll wake up and just like in India, they'll say, oh, the cash is no good anymore. Spend it right now, immediately, and buy Srimad Bhagavatam. You can buy it directly yourself from BBT or from a local ISKCON temple, or you can give it to us and we'll distribute the Srimad Bhagavatams. We're crazy here. All we think about is distributing Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you give us the money, we guarantee you we'll make sure the books go out on your behalf. Those who distribute a full set of Srimad Bhagavatams on the Bhadra Purnima get the great gift of going back home, back to Godhead, as per 12:13:13 in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So take advantage of this day. It's coming up very quickly. Don't hesitate. Take advantage now, because life can be over at any second. We don't know. We have a testimonial here, I can tell. Yeah, one Srimad Bhagavatam, Radha Kripa Prabhu, Haribo. Okay, very good. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in our continuing program leading up to Sri Radhashtami, which is tomorrow. We're on text number, Adi Lila, chapter 4, text number 30. Amiya na jani taha na jani gopi gana. Dunhara rupa gune, dunhara nityak hare mana. Neither the gopis nor I shall notice this, for our minds will always be entranced by one another's beauty and quality. Vanti, could you read the purport, please? Could it get cooler in here? Is it hot, or is it just me?
Sky, The Vaikuntha planets are predominated by Narayana. His devotees have the same features he does, and the exchange of devotion there is on the platform of reverence. But above all these Vaikuntha planets is Goloka, or Krishna Loka, where the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, fully manifests his pleasure potency and free-loving affairs. Since the devotees in the material world know almost nothing about these affairs, the Lord desires to show these affairs to them. In Goloka Vrindavan, there is an exchange of love known as Parakiyaras. It is something like the attraction of a married woman for a man other than her husband. In the material world, this sort of relationship is most abominable because it is a perverted reflection of the Parakiyaras in the spiritual world, where it is the highest kind of loving affair. Such feelings between the devotee and the Lord are presented by the influence of Yogamaya. The Bhagavad Gita states that devotees of the highest grade are under the care of Daivamaya or Yogamaya. Mahatmanastamam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. Those who are actually great souls, Mahatmas, are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, always engaged in the service of the Lord. They are under the care of Devi Prakriti, or Yogamaya. Yogamaya creates a situation in which the devotee is prepared to transgress all regulative principles simply to love Krishna. A devotee naturally does not like to transgress the laws of reverence for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but by the influence of Yogamaya, he is prepared to do anything to love the Supreme Lord better. Those under the spell of the material energy cannot at all appreciate the activities of Yogamaya, for a conditioned soul can hardly understand the pure reciprocation between the Lord and his devotee. But by executing devotional service under the regulative principles, one can become very highly elevated and then begin to appreciate the dealings of pure love under the management of Yogamaya. In the spiritual loving sentiment induced by the Yogamaya potency, both Lord Sri Krishna and the damsels of Vraja forget themselves in spiritual rapture. By the influence of such forgetfulness, the attractive beauty of the gopis plays a prominent part in the transcendental satisfaction of the Lord, who has nothing to do with mundane sex. Because spiritual love of Godhead is above everything mundane, the gopis superficially seem to transgress the codes of mundane morality. This perpetually puzzles mundane moralists. Therefore, Yogamaya acts to cover the Lord and his pastimes from the eyes of mundaners, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says that he reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. The acts of Yogamaya make it possible for the Lord and the gopis in loving ecstasy to sometimes meet and sometimes separate. These transcendental loving affairs of the Lord are unimaginable to empiricists involved in the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, the Lord himself appears before the mundaners to bestow upon them the highest form of spiritual realization and also personally relish its essence. The Lord is so merciful that he himself descends to take the fallen souls back home to the kingdom of Godhead, where the erotic principles of Godhead are eternally relished in their real form, distinct from the perverted sexual love so much adored and indulged by the fallen souls in their diseased condition. The reason the Lord displays the Rasa Leela is essentially to induce all the fallen souls to give up their diseased morality and religiosity and to attract them to the kingdom of God to enjoy the reality. A person who actually understands what the Rasa Leela is will certainly hate to indulge in mundane sex life. For the realized soul, hearing the Lord's Rasa Leela through the proper channel will result in complete abstinence from material sexual pleasure.
Look up Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi. Somebody could bring me a Brahma Samhita while he's looking it up. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi. Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabis tabirya eva nijarupataya kalabi. Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham vajami. This verse from the Sri Brahma Samhita says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confidant Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. So this particular verse is one that is quoted frequently by our Vaishnavacharyas and is in parallel with the meaning of the last verse in purport, in that Krishna has an internal potency. The Sri Vishnu Purana, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes when he's teaching Sanatana Goswami about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, says, Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyakya Tatapara Avidya Karma Samgyanya Tritiya Shakti Ishite, which means that the Lord has three primary potencies. There's the internal potency, the external potency, and the marginal potency. The external potency is the world of Maya, which is a reflection of the internal potency, and the internal potency is where Krishna and his devotees exchange loving pastimes together. They have relationships in the spiritual world. And then the marginal potency, which is the jiva, known as tatastha. Tatastha, sta means to be situated somewhere, to be standing somewhere, but tata means neither here nor there. So living entity can live either in the spiritual world or in the material world. And we have the minute independence to choose to live in either place. And in the Lord's internal potency, he and his devotees are absorbed in deep loving affairs, which are orchestrated by Yogamaya, or the Lord's servant who arranges all of his pastimes. And the devotees also, as we see from the pastimes in Vrindavan, forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For instance, one day in Vrindavan, Krishna's friends and Balaram complained against Krishna. They said, Krishna is sat in a solitary place and he ate dirt. And Mother Yashoda became alarmed and she said, Krishna, why are you eating dirt? He said, I have a beautiful array of sweetmeats at home. You can have sandash or rasgulla, rabri, rasamalai, burfi, sweet rice. Why are you eating dirt? And Krishna said, they're lying. They're just making up lies about me. I've not eaten dirt. And so Yashoda says, then you sit here on my lap and open your mouth and I'll look in and see if you've eaten dirt. So when Krishna opened his mouth, Krishna revealed to her, of course it's already there, so when she looked in, she saw the many universes. She saw herself with Krishna on her lap. She saw all the layers of the universe, the unlimited spiritual world, and all of creation, both material and spiritual. Of course, the spiritual world's not created, but it's eternally existing. And for a moment, she was bewildered by this and thought, oh, I'm holding the Supreme Personality of God into my lap. But then her affection, which is the natural state of Mother Yashoda, came back in, and Yogamaya then again covered over her knowledge of him being the Supreme Personality of God. She said, okay, just close your mouth, it's okay. Don't eat dirt again. And we find that the internal potency is run by the Yogamaya, and that the devotees then, by her divine bewilderment, forget that Krishna's Supreme Personality of God is, so that their relationship with him can become very intimate and sweet. The more that that the devotees remember Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the more distance they have from him. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna realizes that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he then begins to apologize, said, "Oh, please forgive me. So many times we sat on the same bed and I criticized you jokingly, or I said, oh friend, I treated you as an equal. But now I see you the Supreme Personality of Godhead." So there's a distance created. So this Yogamaya potency is what keeps the devotees fully absorbed in their intimate, loving relationships with Krishna. Text number 31. Oh, also from the last verse, very importantly, of 31 in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, sorry, back to where we were, that those who become attracted to the pastimes of Krishna and his intimate loving affairs with the gopis in the spiritual world become free from their attraction to the material world. There is no other remedy. Shukadeva Goswami says later in the 10th canto, that is later past the childhood pastimes of Krishna, Vikriditam vrajavadu vir aham cha Vishnu, shadhanvito nashinuyad atavarna yedya, bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam, hridrogam ashvapahinot yacharina dhira. Very quickly, when one understands the loving affairs and becomes attracted to them between Krishna and the Vrajavadus, his female counterparts in the spiritual world, that person is able to not only give up the dread disease of the heart, lust, attraction for the opposite sex in the material world, but it also comes to bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kama. He or she comes to the highest position of bhakti. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended this method of worship of the gopis, that's Arajo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayasta Dhama Vrindavana Ramya Kachirupasana Vrajavadu. The way that the gopis loved Krishna in Vrindavan was the topmost form of worship, topmost upasana. So here we hear in the purport that by hearing about that and becoming enamored of the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis in Vrindavan, one becomes uninterested in the mundane relationships in the material world. Now I'll take some reflections because I want to hear what kind of things you're hearing and absorbing before we move on to the next point. Mukaravinda.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So in the starting of the purport, Prabhupada mentioned, or in between that Parkeras, how the same Parkeras that is the highest in spiritual world is perverted reflection in this material world, and how it is abominable. So that distinction Prabhupada makes, and sometimes like Sahajiya class of people, or like those who take cheaply Radha Krishna pastime, and that's what I think my understanding before like coming to Krishna consciousness in ISKCON, that Prabhupada gives us the right understanding what is Krishna, Radha Krishna's loving affair is different than what the ordinary people do. So it's such a nice, I was just reflecting Prabhupada's mercy that he clarify everything. What is the...
Yes, Prabhupada had said in the purport that people think that Krishna is amoral because they hear about these pastimes and because of lack of understanding of the position of Krishna and the gopis. As explained, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of everything. And therefore, Shukadeva Goswami says, if a child plays with his shadow or of his hand on the wall, that's an expansion of himself. So similarly, these gopis are expansions of Krishna. So when he's interacting with them, it's not the same kind of interaction that living entities have in the material world. It's the nature of the Absolute to enjoy, and he enjoys with his internal potency. So if somebody doesn't understand this and they think Krishna is just like an ordinary person, then they make this great error of thinking that Krishna is immoral, or they judge him in terms of him being an ordinary person. And this is a great blunder that that Srila Prabhupada has cleared up through the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes.
So Maharaj, on the same paragraph, there was a mention that the Yogamaya creates a situation in which the devotee is prepared to transgress all regulative principles simply to love Krishna. So when we look at the 4 regulative principles and think about the gopis, are there some more examples of, like our 4 regulative principles, no gambling, no...
It doesn't mean the 4
like
regulative principles.
Yeah.
Those principles are so basic, but they're for Kali Yuga to understand. When it means the regulative principles, or this means there's a ceremoniousness in worshiping God, that there are certain rules and regulations of ways in which to approach Him, of ways to not approach Him, ways to sit in the temple room, for instance, ways to a time and place and circumstance for worshiping the Lord, and all of the love in the Vraj, when there's the spontaneous love, is called unceremonious love. There's no ceremony to it. They just go with, they're drawn by their heart and worship Krishna without any sense of religious ritual. This means transgressing the principles.
Maharaj, as you mentioned in the last, Prabhupada clarified and gave a very deeper understanding about this very sensitive subject, because we typically, the conditioned people, and especially those who grew up in India, they sometimes find it hard to justify as they discuss the Krishna philosophy to others. So I think hearing from Prabhupada and from his disciples who has a very deeper understanding is very, very, very important, because once you hear that, you then are empowered in yourself to get the clarity in your own head, and then you can clarify to some extent. And then also, what I heard that we typically at ISKCON do not generally discuss the Rasulullah as a matter, because this is a topic where people can, half of the people, those who may not be in the same mood, or their consciousness is not yet elevated to a certain level, they may treat it as a very low level of things. So I really was thankful to Prabhupada to bring this very subject, which satisfies me personally as a beginner. But then now with the same knowledge, we can bring it only in a condition where it is inappropriate to discuss. Otherwise, this is just wanted to share.
In India, oftentimes people have a fragmentary knowledge of the culture and philosophy of Krishna consciousness. What's more, most people don't read Bhagavad Gita. They say, "Oh, Bhagavad Gita, my mother read it, my grandfather knew it," but do they read it? They don't have time. But if you ask them what Bhagavad Gita means, or what is the purport of Bhagavad Gita, they'll say, "Just do your work." They don't know anything about Bhagavad Gita. Very few people do. And oftentimes when they do read Bhagavad Gita, they get a misguided translation and a misguided purport, in which the author is describing how actually Krishna is not a person, but there's the unborn within Krishna who's speaking through a temporary manifested form. This is Mayavad. And this, as Prabhupada writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, has ruined everything. And people are ruined by this. That's why Prabhupada, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyate Shatarne, he's come to dispel people's illusion about impersonal voidism, Mayavad, and so forth. So that's the first point. And second point is that we don't boycott the Rasa Leela or the gopis. And Prabhupada said this even as he disbanded the so-called Gopi Bhava Club in Los Angeles, which appeared in the mid-70s. After Prabhupada had released the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was a group of devotees who formed and they had a misguided understanding that now we have these descriptions of Krishna and the gopis in the spiritual world. We'll concentrate exclusively on this. And by doing that, then we'll make advancement more quickly than others, especially those who are reading Bhagavad Gita. And the devotees who had formed this group then met with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada dispelled them of their misguided ideas and the practice they had taken up. And in the course of telling them that they weren't to exclusively read from one place or another, he didn't say don't read it and don't discuss it, but don't think that you are qualified to not read Bhagavad Gita. In fact, those who are most advanced are always eager to read Bhagavad Gita and understand the basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness. It becomes deeper and more revealing as one advances, and it's not that, oh, I've already done that, it's not interesting anymore. It actually becomes more interesting. What's more, those who are still filled with material desire should stay in the first two cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And by going through the first two cantos and then gradually through the rest of the cantos up to the 9th canto, one will become dispelled of the illusion that Krishna is an ordinary person, that I'm the enjoyer in this material world. You can't help but not be dispelled of that by reading the Bhagavatam. It's so potent in that way. Then one becomes qualified. And this is to hear about Krishna and the gopis. I quoted, Vikriditam vrajavadu rirahamcha Vishnu shraddhanvito na shinu yadata varna yadyat. So shraddhanvito means one has to have the proper faith in order to hear Vikriditam vrajavadu, the loving pastimes, the playful pastimes of Krishna with the gopis in Vrindavan. One has to have shraddhanvito. Faith has to be properly established. Means that one has to understand that I am eternal servant of Krishna, I'm not my body. Krishna is namam karmani limpanti. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm not ordinary, don't think I'm ordinary. And if you understand that I'm not ordinary, then you'll become liberated. Janma karma cha me divyam, we all know. So this foundational philosophy is very important, but people tend to jump right into the Rasulullah and misunderstand it, and they don't have sufficient knowledge of the categories, as Prabhupada mentions, that are mentioned throughout the first 9 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, what to speak of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, our process is called incidental hearing. We read all the books all the time. Means you read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Say yes. Yes. We read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, correct? And we read all the books in Nectar Devotion. We don't stop halfway through. We go all the way through Nectar Devotion, no matter how tedious the second half may be, because it's a catalog of various emotions in the spiritual world. And in the process of doing that, we'll come to hear about Krishna and his relationship with his most intimate devotees in Vrindavan. As we do, we simply hear it submissively, and we continue reading. And as we incidentally hear about these things, we don't skip over, nor do we exclusively focus on one place or another. But by that consolidated hearing, then incidentally we'll hear about various topics. And because it's in the framework, the way Prabhupada's spiritual genius, by his spiritual genius, he set up the means by which we would not misunderstand these things. In fact, he did give the Rasa Leela to the whole world through the Krishna book, and we were distributing them as soon as they came out. In fact, I remember in 1973, I used to go to the San Francisco airport with Kesha Bharti Maharaj, and we'd sneak around because it was not legal at that time. We'd wear disguises. And my friend Maharaj Das, who was here the other day for the Vyasa Puja, he and I used to go out together all the time. We'd put on a wig. I joined the temple and I shaved my head happily, and afterwards they said, now get a wig. I was like, that's pretty weird. So I put on a wig and regular clothes, and we go out to the airport and sneak around, and we'd find mostly, that time we were mostly talking to hippies And anybody with long hair, they were cool. In fact, our wigs were long hair wigs. I'm glad there's no photographic evidence. And so, I hope. So then one day, we'd sit down with somebody as they're sitting there, so it just looked like we were having a conversation. And I say, you want to see something far out? And they go, what? I said, no, I'm talking really far out. And they go, what is it? And then we pull out a Krishna book, say, take a look at this. And we start going through the pictures. And there it is, Krishna in the spiritual world, his internal potency, his relationship with the gopis, everything. And we would sell those books. And people were very happy to take them. That was the most far out thing they've ever seen. And so Prabhupada revealed to the world the pastimes of Krishna in the spiritual world and the Rasulullah, but he did so in a way that people were protected. Because you'll notice that throughout the chapters on the Rasulullah, he explains that Krishna is not ordinary, Krishna is not ordinary, Radharani is not ordinary, Radharani is not ordinary, again and again, bringing us back to the foundational points of the Bhagavad Gita. And when one reads that under the protection of Srila Prabhupada's divine grace, then one can come to understand and be attracted. And many, many people were and are attracted when they hear, oh, God's a person, he plays in the spiritual world. Then one's mind has somewhere to go. If you tell people that God's an impersonal force within, doesn't mean it doesn't mean that God's actually speaking, there's some amorphous concept. They have nowhere to go. And therefore, by default, they have to be attracted to the mundane, abominable connection between a male and female in the material world. I say that in a very existential point. Not that relationships under regulative principles in the material world is abominable, but from the point of view of the contrast between the material and the spiritual world, it is. According to the Prahlad Maharaj and all the great acharyas, they point out that the attraction between male and female in the material world is the main binding force that keep us here. Pumsastriya maita nibhava metam tayor mitu hridayam grantamahu atogriya kshetra sutatta vitar janasya moho yamaham mameti. Economics lesson. There's no need for Home Depot if you're a brahmachari. You just get a little corner in the room and let somebody else build it, and then you can put your mat down and you're okay. But as soon as you become attracted to the opposite sex, then you got to get yourself a lease and insurance. And I mean, that's just the beginning. Don't get me started. It goes on and on. Janasya moho yamahamameti, and then the hearts of the male and female become tied tightly together. And under regulative principles, sacred union, marriage and stuff, those kinds of things, the Bhagavatam points out these things that's also the medicine by which one can gradually become liberated. But make no mistake, it is the binding force in the material world, and if it's unregulated, then very difficult to overcome. So the pastimes of Krishna free us from that, because one can actually develop an understanding that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. And when one begins to relish that, then one's spiritual life is awakening. And the attraction that I have to the material world is slackening. And this is the effect. Vikriditam vrajabadur biraham cha Vishnu shradhanvito nashinu yadatavarna yedya. Bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridrogam ashvapahinot acharena. Acharena means very quickly, the hridrogam ashvapahinot, the disease within the heart, which is that I'm attracted to matter, which is unreasonable. I'm not part of this world. I never actually even touched the material world. The only thing I touch here is my imaginative idea. I experience my experience that's within the mind. The mind projects an idea of what's going on in the material world, and then I look at that, and I think I'm experiencing something like in a dream. I don't actually get anything here in the material world. Nothing. Zero. Goose eggs. Exactly zero is what I get out of the material world. But if one tastes one tiny drop of nectar from Krishna's pastimes, his association, his lila, his loving exchanges with his devotees in the spiritual world, then you actually get something and you know it. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasa rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. That you can only restrain yourself in the material world by force until you have a higher taste. And when you have a higher taste, when you've tasted something superior, which only comes from the form of Krishna, from Krishna's form and relationship with his devotees in the spiritual world, only then can you give up the lower taste of the material world. Otherwise, it's impossible. Therefore, those who are not attached to chanting Hare Krishna or hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, but who imitate those who are in the spiritually advanced position are called sahajya. They're fakers. And their type of devotion is not substantial. But those who very carefully follow the regulative principles, chant 16 rounds minimum every day, study Srila Prabhupada's books very carefully, going through them again and again, and do seva, use their senses to serve the Sankirtan movement, as we just heard earlier from Narottam Das Thakur, can actually overcome the attraction of the material world. That's a cause for celebration. You can close down your block, you can get a permit and have a huge festival to celebrate the moment you feel that you're not attracted to the material world anymore. That's the only cause for celebration when you're in the human form of life. All other celebrations are just superficial, but that's the main thing. And that can be done only through the maturing process, submissive hearing every day and for long periods of time, submissive service to the Sankirtan movement, culturing knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Read the 4th canto 3 times. Read the 7th canto 5 times. Go over and over and over the verses and experience them. And do unswerving service. Whether you feel like it or you don't do it, or you don't feel like it, keep doing it. And in a lifetime of dedication like this, one can actually achieve this great treasure of life, that is attraction to the spiritual world. Any other points? Mukharvind is on a roll, as usual.
The very nice song that you sang in the Gaurangera Dutipada, in that is mentioned that how when we dwell into the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we ultimately comes out of in the Rasarna, the conjugal mellows of Radha and Krishna. So even Prabhupada and Gaudiya Vaishnavacharya had made, or even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself made so easy that even though sometimes it's difficult to understand Radha Krishna, we can just meditate on the pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also practically take part in his Sankirtan movement. So it's much more hope and much more...
Yeah. Thanks for bringing our attention back to that, because that is the way that our acharyas tell us to focus. Shraddha?
So Maharaj, in the 3rd verse of the same song, there's a mention, it says that...
Look up in Parasis.
Those who understand the associates of Lord Chaitanya, they become immediately eligible to enter into the pastimes of the Lord in the next birth. So they are talking about the next material birth, or they are talking that you have understood the associates.
If you're taking birth somewhere in the pastimes of the Lord, it's not a material birth. Material birth means you're born into a bewildered situation and you start off on the wrong foot completely. But what happens is Krishna notes whatever progress we're making, and he arranges for us to continue that progress in the next life. So it means that, let's say somebody is born in Silicon Valley, but they're born into let's just say they're born here at ISV. Let's analyze what a kid goes through when they're born at ISV. First of all, while they're in the womb, they hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you hear the Srimad Bhagavatam when you were in the womb? You did? Yeah. And wait. Yes? I guarantee you did. You did. And then when you were born, I was there when you were born. You came out, and when you were a little, practically you were a baby, you wanted a mridanga. You were crying for mridanga. I brought you one from Vrindavan. You started off going around on watching your parents distribute books. You sat in classes. I mean, I don't know if you sat when you were a kid. You mostly ran around, but pretty soon, you wake up and realize, like, wow, I'm in one of the pastimes of the Lord here. This is the Sankirtan movement. So those who have performed devotional service in previous lives, how do we all end up together anyway, following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Everyone who's come here to this group, it means that they're being directed by Lord Chaitanya. So this is the continuation of your service in your last life. And so Prabhupada confirms in several places, and Bhagavatam also says, that when you leave this world after having performed devotional service, next stop is a place where Krishna is performing his pastimes. So you get more trained up. And you can be in that situation until you're trained up, or if Krishna needs you there, you can just stay there. Who cares? The devotees don't care where they are as long as they're connected in loving service. Narayana paraksarve nakutaschana bhibyati swarga parvarga narakeshu apitulyarta darshina. Whether they're heaven, hell, whatever, devotees don't notice so much because they're engaged in seva. So next life always is Krishna's arrangement to get more purified and more trained up. So you're already in it. This is the pastimes of the Lord. And the next lifetime up to Krishna, but it's a fact that he'll put you in a place where you'll be even more intensely engaged in service. Although I can't imagine being more intensely engaged than here at ISV. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's read on. Avantika, I know you know what empiricist is, but when you were reading the purport, I noticed that you very, very slightly, almost imperceptibly stumbled on the word. So go ahead and say it, and then tell us what it is. And then you have to tell us what the context of the word was and why Prabhupada brought it up.
Empiricist, it's both a noun and an adjective. The noun definition is a person who supports the theory that all knowledge is based on experiences derived from the senses. And then the adjective is relating to or characteristic of the theory that all knowledge is based on experience derived from the senses.
And where does the word come from?
I don't know.
What's your guess of what language it comes from?
Latin.
All English comes from either Latin or German. Those two things, mostly. A little bit of Greek. Go ahead.
Oh, I got the word.
You got anything more, Shraddha? The etymology? Okay. So tell us the context. Why was that brought up? Why was that word brought up in the purport?
I think Prabhupada was talking about how he was talking about the perverted reflection of the Rasulullah in the material world, and about how it was all sense gratification. So similarly, empiricist is about science based off the senses enjoyment. So it kind of goes along with that.
Yeah, and that there are two different ways of understanding anything. And those who are empiricists, they believe only in the power of their senses. Therefore, they have no access to understanding the Supreme, because you can't understand the Supreme by your senses. Atashi Krishna namadi nabhaved grayam indriye jivan mukhi sevan mukhi jivadao swayameva sparatida. Only by seva, especially beginning with the tongue, can you understand the Supreme. The method of understanding anything that is more powerful than you is not through empiricism. You can't do it with your senses. How do you have to understand something, a person or phenomena, that's more powerful than you are? Yes, Prabhu? We have a Gyani in the back, a Muni. Please provide him a microphone. No, you can stay. We'll bring it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
When you say we cannot understand Krishna by senses, what do you mean? Because when you are saying by seva and by using tongue you can understand Krishna, we are still
What I
using
mean
senses.
is by the empiric method, that is depending only on the senses. For instance, somebody may say, if I go to the linear accelerator, I don't know what it's called at Stanford, SLAC. I say, show me an atom. Do they shoot atoms there, or electrons, or something like that? Where's Vrindavan Priya? If I go into any scientific laboratory anywhere, for any class for that matter, it doesn't have to be science, and I just say, prove it, show it to me, they'll say, first you take the class, at least monitor the class and get an idea for what's there. I'll have to be a little submissive to, first of all, get some knowledge to understand something. That's one aspect, is you can't just demand to see things, because what can you see? What's your qualification to see, for instance, those scientific discoveries that people have come about through a series of experiments and have come to a particular point. Even in empiric knowledge, there's some dogma that's required. You have to accept certain axiomatic truths and then come to the point of understanding. You can't just bust in and understand it. What to speak of those things that are above our knowledge? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, to understand me, amanitvam adambitvam. You have to be humble and submissive to understand. So we use our senses according to Krishna's direction. That's seva. Krishna says through the scripture, you serve me like this, like approach the deity, worship the deity, and he tells exactly how to worship the deity. So yes, I'm using my senses, but that's according to a higher direction. I'm not speculating and just show me God. I can't see him. Where is he? But I accept with humility that there's higher knowledge that's coming down through a channel. There in the Bhagavatam, Krishna describes how he appears in different forms: wood, metal, paint, jewels, in the mind, etc., earth. And we follow the process submissively, and then Krishna reveals himself through the deity form. And that's not empiric, but that's through seva. That's the difference. So those who, for instance, if you go to get into a company, which company would you like to get into? Or you're already in a good one? Which one are you in? Google?
I work at Google, yes.
You work at Google. So when you went to Google, did you just bust in and say, give me a job? Is that what you said?
No, I had to prepare a lot.
Were you submissive a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you approach, see, Google, you need Google. Google doesn't necessarily need us as workers. So they're more powerful than we are. So if I go to Google, it's not that I can just break in and start working. It's like, I work here now. No, you don't. Get out. We'll call the police. You can't do that. You have to go there. They're more powerful than I am. So I have to go say, my dear Google, I offer you my humble respects and obeisances. Please, may I work here? And they'll ask you a bunch of questions. Did they ask you any questions? Did you have to answer? They ask you a lot of questions. And very submissively you answered. You sat up straight, you wore a nice tie, and you answered all the questions very submissively. And then they said, okay, you can work here, because they're more powerful than you are. So when you approach a power that's greater than you, you have to be submissive. You can't be an empiricist and just say, I'll crowbar in. This is the idea of the empiricist. This is the empiricist philosophy, that by the power of my brain, by the power of my senses, I will crowbar. You know what a crowbar is? I'll crowbar out of, it's this bar that you use to, break things open. I'll get it out of nature. I'll make her talk. but they don't see anything. They become covered over because of their attitude. So Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Namam duskritinu muda prapadyante naradama maya pritagyana asuram bhavam asrita. What chapter is 7? And he describes how there are 4 classes of people that just don't get it. And some of them are just ignorant fools. They don't want to get it. And some of them are very learned scholars. But their approach is to use their senses and the power of their intellect to crowbar information out of material nature. What's more, they'll study everything in relationship to the universe, to phenomena, but there's only one subject that's taboo. What is that one subject? God, a controller. They'll look at the universe with every intention of discovering whatever they can. The only thing they don't want to know that there's somebody more powerful than them. This is the empiricist creed. That you can talk about God in the university setting, just as long as you don't say He's real. Because as soon as you say He's real, then you're kicked out from the empiricist circle of thinkers. So this is a different approach. The devotees have come to the point of submission. In keeping touch with devotees all over the world, those who are beginning Krishna consciousness and so forth, I find that when they take up the process and then come to a point where they feel completely stifled by the material energy, and there's nowhere else to go, they can't find any traction in the material world, or whatever they're doing is foiled by the power of the material nature, then they say, okay, I give up. Please, what do I do now? Well, follow the Bhagavad Gita. How about that? Just submit yourself to Krishna. You're going to anyway. We already are, but I won't admit it, and that's the material disease. And empiricists are like that. Did that help? Okay. Any other point? Okay, I was about to read more and then I didn't. Is that what happened? It's on text 31. Pure attachment will unite us even at the expense of moral and religious duties, dharma. Destiny will sometimes bring us together and sometimes separate us. Purport. The gopis came out to meet Krishna in the dead of night when they heard the sound of his flute. Srila Rupa Goswami has accordingly composed a nice verse, see Adi 5.224. See if you can find it in the shloka book really quick, Mukarvin. Ajasa smara smara re. You have the verse? Okay. Thank you. Oh, this is a poetical verse. Rupa Goswami says, my dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Jamuna at Keshi Ghat. Casting sidelong glances, he places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in 3 places, appears very bright in the moonlight. So this is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And it's the devotees are actually saying, expressing the beauty and attraction of Krishna. They're not saying don't look at him. They're just saying, like sometimes in class we say, we're about to say something from the Bhagavad Gita that will change your life in a very positive way. And if you don't want to hear it, cover your ears or go out of the room. It's a similar sentiment that don't go down there if you want your material life to be finished. So in that context, I'm going to read this first sentence again. The gopis came out to meet Krishna in the dead of night when they heard the sound of his flute. Srila Rupa Goswami has accordingly composed a nice verse, Adi 5.224, that describes the beautiful boy called Govinda standing on the bank of the Jamuna with his flute to his lips in the shining moonlight. Those who want to enjoy life in the material world, materialistic way of society, friendship, and love should not go to the Jamuna to see the form of Govinda. The sound of Lord Krishna's flute is so sweet that it has made the gopis forget all about their relationships with their kinsmen and flee to Krishna in the dead of night. By leaving home in that way, the gopis transgressed all Vedic regulations of household life. You see, that's the transgression, Shraddha, when we talk about. This indicates that when natural feelings of love for Krishna become fully manifest, a devotee can neglect conventional social rules and regulations. In the material world, we are situated in designative positions only, but pure devotional service begins when one is freed from all designations. When love for Krishna is awakened, the designative positions are overcome. The spontaneous attraction of Sri Krishna for his dearest parts and parcels generates an enthusiasm that obliges Sri Krishna and the gopis to meet together. To celebrate this transcendental enthusiasm, there is need of a sentiment of separation between the lover and the beloved. In the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation, but in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in nature, in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and beloved to meet. The period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than the actual meeting, which lacks the feelings of increasing anticipation because the lover and beloved are both present. There are unlimited sentiments cataloged by Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to explain the combinations and permutations of emotions that arise between Krishna and his devotees. And these are important to understand the personalist philosophy, that is how we have relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. And there are cases also when Krishna and his devotees are together, and even as they're together, they're feeling separation because they're anticipating separation in the future. And these are subject matters that become more and more interesting to those who become advanced in the spiritual science. And this is a sign of awakening good fortune when one actually becomes attracted to all the details that are there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. You can tell that your spiritual health is coming back. If I just start describing Japanese to you right now, the language may not be so interesting because you just have a general idea of what it is. But for those who are going more deeply within studying it, then they become interested in all the different aspects. In any discipline, when you go further into the discipline, everything begins to be more relevant and meaningful. And similarly, in the spiritual science, what to speak of awakening a taste for hearing of these things because of the natural inclination we have anyway to be attracted to Krishna. So this is mentioned, as I've mentioned before, and lately I've been mentioning a lot, by Kapila Dev, when he says that the spiritual state in which one is beyond the three modes of material nature is manifest when one's mind is extremely attracted to hearing about Krishna and all the details of his pastimes, his qualities, his devotees, and so forth. Madguna shruti matrena mai sarvagahashaye manogatir avichina yata gangam basam budao lakshanam bhakti yogasya nirgunasya hudaritam ahaituki avyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. This is the definition of the highest position of devotional service beyond the modes. That just as the Ganges is pulled towards the ocean, it doesn't stop for anything. Similarly, the mind of the devotee is pulled towards the pastimes of Krishna and wants to hear more and more. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya. This is the lakshanam, or the qualities, the quality of pure devotional service. Nirgunasya, when it's beyond the modes of material nature, it's no longer affected by the modes of material nature. Nirgunasya udaritam. Ahaituki avyavahita means that it doesn't stop There's no point at which my eagerness to hear is broken. It continues 24 hours a day. And it's causeless. There's no motivation behind it. I'm just flat out attracted. Ya bhakti purushottame. This is what pure devotional service is to Purushottam Krishna. Next verse is, I shall taste the essence of all these rasas, and in this way I shall favor all the devotees. Then 33, Vraja nirmal raga shuni bhaktagan, raga marge bhaje jena chari dharma karm. Shamalangi, could you say it, please? Are we missing 2 microphones? I only see 2 floating around. We're feeling great separation from the other 2. Okay, go ahead.
Brajero nirmal rag shuni bhaktogan rag marge bhaje jeno chari dharma karma.
Okay, so now we're hearing about Rag Marg. You know, this is a topic that comes up a lot about what the Rag Marg is, or the spontaneous path of worshiping Krishna. So there's the path of rules and regulations. When we start off, we don't have so much of a taste, but we have faith, we have shraddha. We by fortune of meeting devotees, we develop faith that this is a good path. This means good sense. Either in our past life or this life, somehow or other we've come in contact with sadhus. By sadhu sangha, then one gets this shraddha, or this feeling that devotional service is good. I like this. Then we want to associate more with devotees, and as we do, we take up bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means that I make a vow that I'm going to follow this, the way the Goswamis have passed it down, the way it's come down through the founder Acharya, it's coming down through my Diksha Guru who's following me, making sure that I do this. I'm gonna make a vow. Of course, I always noticed writing a book in my mind was much easier than actually writing it. I did it many, many times. I wrote my book. And then when my editor finally called up and said, enough's enough, send me something, I was like, I don't have anything, it's all up here. Sahajya. So, what was I saying when I interrupted myself? Oh, Rag Marg, yeah. So, through this regulated devotional service, sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, then one gradually starts to develop a taste. And then it becomes more and more spontaneous. So this is the subject matter we're hearing about now. Then, by hearing about the pure love of the residents of Vraja, devotees will worship me on the path of spontaneous love, abandoning all rituals of religiosity and fruit of activity. Purport. Many realized souls such as Raghunath Das Goswami and King Kulashekar have recommended with great emphasis that one develop this spontaneous love of Godhead even at the risk of transgressing all the traditional codes of morality and religiosity. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, has written in his prayers called the Manak Shiksha that one should simply worship Radha and Krishna with all attention. Nadharmam shruti gana niruktam kilakuru. One should not be much interested in performing Vedic rituals or simply following rules and regulations. King Kulashekar has written similarly in his book Mukunda Malastotra. Nishta dharme navasu nichaye nava kamo papoge. I have no attraction for performing religious rituals or holding any earthly kingdom. I do not care for sense enjoyments. Let them appear and disappear in accordance with my previous deeds. My only desire is to be fixed in devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord, even though I may continue to take birth here, life after life. This is the mood of the devotee who is advancing in devotional service according to this thickening of shraddha. So shraddha shabde bishwas kahe suridanish joy Krishne bhakti koila karma sarva karma krita hoy. Krishne kole bhakta sarva karma krita hoy means that the a devotee has an intense and growingly intense feeling that by focusing my attention on the activities of bhakti, that all other duties are done. For instance, of course, in America, there's no real duties to do. You just sleep in, wake up, go get a Slurpee, and then walk up and down the avenue and buy stuff with your credit card. There's not a lot of, in India, those of you who are born in India with a semblance of the Vedic culture, there's a lot of duties you have to do. You have to bathe from the right well. You can't touch your cloth before it gets dry. Anything else? Many other things. I know some of your parents follow these things. What? Milk the cow in the morning. There are a lot of very particular ways in which one is supposed to follow the Vedic Shastras in order to appease demigods and so forth. And these kinds of things, the devotee has less and less attraction for as he or she develops faith in Krishna, that by doing bhakti, by worshiping Krishna, primarily by hearing and chanting, all these other things are automatically done. I don't have to attend to them individually. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Udapane, look it up. Samplutodake, tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata. How does it start? Quick, before my head explodes. Yavan artha udapane sarvatasam plutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata. In this verse, Krishna is saying that just like if you go to a river, you get fulfills all your water needs. So similarly, if you don't need to go to individual wells to do certain things. So similarly, if you worship Krishna, then you don't have to do all these other Vedic rituals and so forth. Everything's done automatically, right? If you go to Home Depot, then all your Ace Hardware needs are fulfilled. So devotees understand that by worshiping Krishna, everything is done. Let's hear from the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Give him the microphone. Go ahead.
Yo mamevama sammudo janati purushotama sa sarvid bhajanti mam sarva bhavena bharata.
Correct. If you know Purushottam, if you know Krishna, you know everything. He's the source of everything, so no need to go anywhere else. So this is faith. The devotee's faith increases in bhakti, but by the process of bhakti, hearing, chanting, worshipping Tulsi, seeing the deity, all other things are done. In fact, you'll see that Prabhupada writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, or maybe it's the Bhagavatam, that he performed a deity installation in Vrindavan, 1975. We were there at the deity installation, and we had huge kirtans going on during it by Prabhupada's instruction. Meanwhile, there were these Vedic rituals going on endlessly. And Prabhupada writes in his purport that all that was needed was the Harinam Sankirtan, except that the local people wouldn't have accepted that it was an installation unless the local Brahmins had come and thrown flowers and rice around and done the whole thing. So devotees who understand the efficacy of worshiping Krishna through the Harinam Sankirtan, through hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and so forth, and become attached to that method because of increasing faith, this is called advancement in devotional service. And the Vedic rules and regulations, other kinds of considerations are not so important to the devotees. Text 34, Krishna manifests his eternal human-like form and performs his pastimes to show mercy to the devotees. Having heard such pastimes, one should engage in service to him. Purport, this text is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-36. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable expansions of his transcendental form, who eternally exist in the spiritual world. This material world is only a perverted reflection of the spiritual world where everything is manifested without inebriety. Look up the pronunciation for that. Inebriety, inebriety. You got it? Okay, play it. You got it? Go ahead, mic it up, Shraddha. Inebriety. Okay, inebriety. I'll start over. There, everything in its original existence, free from this material world, is only a perverted reflection of the spiritual world where everything is manifested without inebriety. There, everything is in its original existence, free from the domination of time. Time cannot deteriorate or interfere with the conditions in the spiritual world, where different manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the recipients of the worship of different living entities in their constitutional spiritual positions. In the spiritual world, all existence is unadulterated goodness. The goodness found in the material world is contaminated by the modes of passion and ignorance. The saying, is everyone listening? The saying that the human form of life is the best position for devotional service has its special significance because only in this form can a living entity revive his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The human form is considered the highest state in the cycle of the species of life in the material world. If one takes advantage of this highest kind of material form, one can regain his position of devotional service to the Lord. Incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear in all the species of life, although this is inconceivable to the human brain. Give the verse, please. Everybody knows where this verse is? That's because you have to get to 34. It's the last verse in the second chapter of the first canto. Everyone should memorize those. If you've memorized C++ or any of those other things, you should memorize this. Go ahead.
So it's SP 1-234. Bhavyata eva satvena lokanvaya lokabhavana lila avatar anurato devatiryan naradishu.
Devatiryan naradishu. He appears in all the different species of life to perform his pastimes. Incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear in all the species of life, including in the vegetable tribes, says Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Although this is inconceivable to the human brain. Do you find it inconceivable? That's because you have a human brain. The Lord's pastimes are differentiated according to the appreciating capacity of the different types of bodies of the living entities. The Supreme Lord bestows the most merciful benediction upon human society when he appears in his human form. It is then that humanity gets the opportunity to engage in different kinds of eternal service to the Lord. Special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastime of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. Adoration, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 5 primary relationships with Krishna. The highest perfectional stage of the conjugal relationship, enriched by many sentiments, gives the maximum relishable mellow to the devotee. The Lord appears in different incarnations as a fish, tortoise, and boar, as Parashuram, Lord Rama, Buddha, and so on. To reciprocate the different appreciations of living entities in different stages of evolution, the conjugal... Sorry, that was a clause. To reciprocate the different appreciations of living entities in different stages of evolution. The conjugal relationship of amorous love, called Parakiya Ras, is the unparalleled perfection of love exhibited by Lord Krishna and his devotees. A class of so-called devotees known as Sahajiyas tries to imitate the Lord's pastimes, although they have no understanding of the amorous love in his expansions of pleasure potency. Their superficial imitation can create havoc on the path for the advancement of one's spiritual relationship with the Lord. Material sexual indulgence can never be equated with spiritual love, which is in the unadulterated goodness. Unadulterated goodness. The activities of the sahajiyas simply lower one deeper into the material contamination of the senses and mind. Krishna's transcendental pastimes display eternal servitorship to Adhoksaja. To who? The Supreme Lord, who is beyond all conception through material senses. Materialistic conditioned souls do not understand the transcendental exchanges of love, but they like to indulge in sense gratification in the name of devotional service. The activities of the Supreme Lord can never be understood by irresponsible persons who think the pastimes of Radha and Krishna to be ordinary affairs. The rasa dance is arranged by Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya, and it is beyond the grasp of the materially affected person. Trying to throw mud into transcendence with their perversity, the sahajiyas misinterpret the sayings tat pratvena nirmalam and tat paro bhavet by misinterpreting tadrishi krida. They want to indulge in sex while pretending to imitate Lord Krishna, but one must actually understand the imports of the words through the intelligence of the authorized Goswamis. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, in his prayers to the Goswamis, has explained his inability to understand such spiritual affairs. Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hama Bujaba She Jugala Priti. Shamalangi.
রূপ রঘুনাথ পদে হইবে আকুতি কবে হাম বুঝবো সে যুগল প্রীতি
When I shall be eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental love affairs of Radha and Krishna. In other words, unless one is trained under the disciplic succession of the Goswamis, one cannot understand Radha and Krishna. The conditioned souls are naturally averse to understanding the spiritual existence of the Lord, and if they try to know the transcendental nature of the Lord's pastimes while they remain absorbed in materialism, they are sure to blunder like the sahajiyas. So it's vitally important to read all of Prabhupada's books. You have to read and really enter into the Upadeshamrita and the Sri Upanishad and the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you have to make a plan how you're going to do all that because you're really busy, correct? So what happens is when you make a plan to do something, then other things begin to give way so that you can do it. But your purpose has to be strong. So your purpose to advance in devotional service has to be the primary driving force in your life, and maintaining yourself and developing wealth and so forth have to be secondary. Consider also, the Shastra says, that pretty much you're going to get what you're going to get anyway. Not that you don't methodically take care of the things you can take care of. Like if you have a family, you do the best planning you possibly can in order to take care of them, correct? But this in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, Balasya neha sharanam pitarao nashinga nartasya chaganamutanvachi majato no taptasya tat prativividir yarihanjisheshtas tavad vibo tanubritam twarupekshitanam. He says, consider the fact that you can't save a man on the water with a boat, or medicine can't save a sick person, or children actually can't protect their children unless Krishna sanctions it. Because so many people have tried different ways, and although you try, the reverse result comes out. So do the best you can, but expect that it's all up to the Lord's mercy anyway, how it comes out on the material side. But do give a full emphasis to advancing spiritually by making time every day to perform the most important aspects of devotional service, which are shuni, hearing. You have to have time to hear sufficiently from the Shastra, especially the books Srila Prabhupada has given to us. And you also have to take time every day to make sure you chant good rounds. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The minimum that's been set for those who are serious practitioners is 16. So get to that level, then get to the level of hearing and chanting from Prabhupada's books, at least something every day, some regulated thing, and then worry about everything else afterwards. That's the standard for those who want to advance in devotional service. As given by Rupa Goswami, Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasiniyoja Tishtam Vraje Tananaragi Jananugami Kalam Nayed Akilam Itu Padesha Saram. He said, this is the saram of Upadesh, the cream of all advice. Organize your life around the principle of hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Everything else comes second. And if you do that, you'll be able to enter into the spiritual world. Yes?
Asked me and I was not able to give a very good answer, so I wanted to ask that why does all the incarnations, like they come in India and not, why not in America or not in South America and Australia? I just said, that, India...
Why are all the major religions of the world only come from Asia and the Middle East? Otherwise, there are no major religions in the world. I mean, why did things come from certain places? Why does Apple come from Silicon Valley? Why not Kansas City? I mean, maybe they have a branch out there, but this is where they were founded. It's the way they start. In some way, it's a silly question. It's like, why isn't it everywhere? In one way, it is everywhere. I mean, Krishna's incarnation in the age of Kali Yuga is his holy name. That's going to every town and village. So you can't say that he hasn't gone everywhere. He's appearing, he appears in the wildest places. Devotees chanting Hare Krishna and all these, places in the Midwest and Siberia. I mean, he's appearing in Siberia right now. So, he appears where it's natural for him to appear. And specifically, in India, there's noticeably a culture there that is based on higher principles. Because Krishna appears there, but also because the people are very advanced, that they can appreciate when he appears. Anything else? Yes. There's a question online right after this.
Similarly, there's a question comes in preaching when you go like a book description, like why the human has higher brain than other living entities, like who can only perform only human can perform the devotional service. So how we explain?
Well, how do we explain that is that the living entity, Krishna's giving facility to every living entity to enjoy life in particular ways, according to their desire. And that's up to the control of the material nature, which body everyone gets. As Krishna says in the Gita 5th chapter, Nakartvitvam nakarmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karmapala, I forget. Nakartvitvam nakarmani lokasya srijati prabhu. Then? Sabhava sambhavartate. He says, I'm not responsible for the karma of the living entities. That's their business in their interaction with the material nature. Material nature has its own mechanism, and when we get involved in it, then we have to take the consequences, because we're not dead stones. We're conscious living entities, and there are consequences to our activities. So, a living entity is being awarded according to his desire in the material world. And there are 8,400,000 species of life as an accommodation. Prabhupada writes in the Srimad Bhagavatam that this material accommodation is there because the living entity has a desire seat in the heart to enjoy separately from the Lord. And therefore the Lord gives unlimited facility. Now look at birds sometime. You ever watch birds? They actually like flying around. They're not just flying around for food, but they're having fun up there. You watch and see how they are. I watch them all the time. I was like, you're having fun, right? And they look at me like, yeah, this is cool. I'm flying around, you know. They're as conscious as I am. The only thing they don't have is the facility to ask a bigger question, like where they come from and why this happened. And Krishna's giving, if he doesn't give this full facility for a kingdom of ignorance where you can completely forget him and just try to enjoy in many different ways, then how is he providing free will? It has to be there. He also has to give the facility for everyone to forget and to enter in deeply into these kind of situations where they try to enjoy. So he also gives a juncture at which you can now decide that I would like to advance spiritually. And even there, the prayers of personified Vedas say the purpose of human life is twofold. There's two reasons for it. One is to enjoy more material sense gratification, and the other is for liberation. Still you have your choice when you come to the human form of life. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll just notice his mood. Chechasi tathakuru, whatever you like you can do. He tells Arjuna after instructing him about all these ways that the material nature works, about what happens when you touch here or you touch there, modes of material nature, you're going to be, here are your consequences, Arjuna. And at the end, what does he say? Do it or go to hell? No, he says, do as you wish. You're a free living entity. You're as conscious as I am, only minutely. But you can understand this, Arjuna. Now, do as you wish to do. Now, if somebody misuses that, then material nature fulfills his desire. Asau gunmayer bhaver bhuta sukshmendriyatmabi sa nirmiteshu nirvishto bhunkte bhuteshu tad gunan. Even at the beginning of creation, a super soul reminds everybody, it's like, this is what you wanted. You still want it? I have full facility for you to enjoy in the material worlds. You can go for it if you wish. And those who misuse their freedom and cause problems, just like somebody goes into a little town, they start shooting it up. Bang, bang, bang. Then the sheriff comes over and locks them up, puts them in jail. Says, you sit down here, boy, and you calm down. I'll let you out in a week, and he lets them out in a week. So sometimes we get also, we misuse our freedom. We get restricted by material nature. It's natural. Karmana daivanetrena jantur deho papate striya pravishta udaram pumsho karna pumshareta kanardaya pumshareta kanashraya. This means that material nature is mechanical, and there's already a system in line for how you've developed your consciousness, how you've conducted yourself. It's exactly, you get what you asked for. So if you don't like what you're getting, then change your activities, change your consciousness. If you don't like what you're being subjected to, change the subject. Looks like we have a special ceremony today. It looks very much like that. So what else? Yes. When should we do Hansapriya? Give me more instruction. What's Srisha's daughter's name? Anvaya. Anvaya. Vyatareka Vyam. Anvaya. Haribol. And so, oh, okay. All right, sounds good. Anvaya looks ready. She's fired up. Very serious. Tira. Okay.
So there are two questions. One is from Bhakta Adam Ellen Bass.
Oh.
It's a question from Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is
Hare
Bhakta
Krishna,
Adam.
Bhakti Adam. Nice to hear from you.
I have a question. Even though we engage with the material world and Krishna has nothing to do with it or allows us to engage, is it safe to say that the material experiences we have are always instructing us or offering us opportunities to see the fruitlessness of our material engagement? So is Krishna still involved in that sense?
Yeah, this is wisdom. If you come to the point of taking the lesson that's coming from material nature, then you're known as a wise person. Yes, this is the idea of we should be taking the lesson of the frustration that we find in the material world. It takes a while for some people. It takes longer for some than others. You had a follow-up? Okay, let me just answer. Is it part of the first question? Taking the lesson is very important. Sometimes it takes people longer to understand. Krishna says in the Gita, Bahunam jamanamante gyanavam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha. He said that after many, many births and deaths, a wise person comes to the conclusion that everything's coming from Krishna and starts to take lessons as coming from Krishna also. And the devotee, that is, those who have surrendered to Vasudeva, develop the attitude, Te anukampam susamikshamanu bunjane evatma kritam vipakam ridvagvapur vira viradam namaste jiveta yomukti pade sadaya bhak. And that is that everything that's happening to me is Krishna's mercy for my own purification. So this is the quintessential attitude of one on the path of pure devotional service, to take that lesson. And whether a living entity knows it or knows not, he's in contact with Krishna. Even the primordial living entities, or I would say more primal living entities like plankton who live in the ocean. Is everyone familiar with plankton? You didn't study biology? You know plankton, right? What's plankton?
Plankton, they're primary producers in the ocean, so they're the smallest ones and everything eats them.
And do they eat anything?
No.
Well, how do they live then if they don't eat anything? Gotcha. I never thought I could get Avantika, but I got her once. Just one time. You can count it. Okay, they do eat from the sun, right?
Oh yeah.
Sunlight?
So they do photosynthesis since they're in the top of the ocean.
Take in the sun, yeah, the sun energy. Everyone's eating from the sun, directly or indirectly. So even those living entities are in contact with Krishna through the sun, and it's annamoy. They're eating something, and that's their relationship with Krishna. We all have a relationship with Krishna eternally, whether in the spiritual world or the material world. It's how conscious we become of that. Therefore, in the last purport, number 34, we heard, that's 434, just to mark it, the second to last paragraph, Prabhupada said, different species of life have different appreciating capacities. And when you come to the human form of life, you have more capacity to appreciate. It's like an upgrade from, one of those Nokios to a Apple 10 Max. It's an upgrade. It's more facility. Same electricity going through, but different capacity to understand. What's the second part? More about plankton?
I have something else.
What?
Something else.
I can't hear you. Go ahead.
Something else.
Okay, 1, 2.
This is from Vaikuntha Nayak Prabhu.
Vaikuntha Nayaka, wow.
Dandavats Guru Maharaj, you pointed out how misguided versions of Bhagavad Gita, where authors claim that Krishna is not a person, it's the unborn within. I was having a discussion with one pseudo-scholar where he claimed that everything about Krishna is symbolic and the description should not be taken literally. When I asked him to furnish proof, I was surprised when he quoted Srimad Bhagavatam 12.11, verses 10 through 20, summary description of Mahapurusha. Here there is description, upon his chest the mighty unborn personality of Godhead bears the Kaustubha gem, which represents the pure spirit soul, along with the Srivatsa mark, which is the direct manifestation of this gem's expansive effulgence, and his flower garland is his material energy. Elsewhere we have description of the mountains being the bones of Krishna, the rivers, veins, etc. So what would have been the best way to counter the proposition that everything is symbolic? How to prove that personal form is superior to the symbolic meanings?
It's always best to go back to the Bhagavad Gita. It's our primary source of communication with all other sampradayas, and anyone who accepts Shastra go to the Bhagavad Gita, because there we have very simple shlokas, very straightforward statements. So, as an example, in the Gita, Krishna says, Amritat Vayakalpate, first line, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, Amritat, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, Amritasya vitasya cha, shashvatasya tatarmasya, sukasya ikantikasya cha. So there he very clearly says, and it's indisputable evidence, that there's a hierarchy beginning with Bhagavan himself, and then expanding into all other forms, including the Brahman effulgence, the impersonal form, that he's a person. The descriptions, there in the Bhagavad Gita you'll find that he's referring to himself, Mam, and that very directly he's referring to himself as a person. You'll find in the oldest literatures, the Upanishads, won't we, Avantika, that Krishna is a person because the devotees are praying to see his face. Correct? So there's a lot of evidence. Taking some obscure description from a particular place and trying to make a universal application to it is a kind of deceit. You have to take the very direct statements Krishna says and what the acharyas give as the very clear meaning of these things to be a directive in understanding the Lord. Okay, Avantika, your turn.
In the purport, it was talking about how Krishna is really inconceivable, and it goes on about how it's hard for people to understand that he takes birth in different species, like first to talk about Matsya like a fish, then to talk about Parshuram. And then it reminded me of the verse that we often say in the Ishopanishad about how Krishna is inconceivable. Tad ejati, tad narjati, tad dire, tad vantike, tad antar asya sarvasya, tadu sarvasya bhayataha. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well.
Yes. And there are other statements. Pushani karshe yamasuriya prajapatya vyuharasmin samuha tejo yate rupam kalyanathamam tate pusham yosavasa purusha. Later on, the description of how Krishna in his various forms is pervading the universe. Nice quotation. Very good. So now Anvaya has been patiently waiting for her first letters ceremony. So if we can make a space here so she can come out. You can move this out of the way. Bolo, bolo. Actually, yeah, we can sit it. Why don't you give me a zafra? Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Vaya. Nice to meet you. So today I'm going to show you your first letter, which we're going to draw the letter in Sanskrit Om. And because you're starting off to write now, and because you'll be writing the first letter Om, and Om is the same as Krishna. It's an incarnation of Krishna in letter form. Then this will give you great advantages in your life, not the least of which is being connected to Krishna. Okay? Anvaya? Okay. So if you'll allow me to take your finger here and just follow me. Just let your finger go loose, like that. Close that. There you go. Very good. Bolo. Make one dot. Dot. Let the record show that Anvaya has drawn a very beautiful Om. And we pray on this day that this syllable Om, which is the seed of all other spiritual sound, will enter into your heart, into your mind, and they will always remember Krishna and be empowered to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Everyone who agrees with this, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Take this chalk in your hand. Are you ready? Two more dots. Anvaya. Dot. Dot. You know what that says? It says Hare Krishna. Can you say Hare Krishna? Hare Krishna. Anvaya. Say Hare Krishna. Let the record show that Anvaya has very beautifully written the Lord's holy name, Hare Krishna. So from this day forward, may the holy name always be with you on your tongue, in your mind, and may you be always attracted to chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Everyone who agrees with this, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I declare this first letters ceremony to be a complete success here on the day of September 15th, 2018. We'll always remember the day when Anvaya wrote her first transcendental letters. And may she continue to complete success in everything she does in her life. Go Premanande Haribo. Thank you very much, Anvaya. Give me this garland. This is Lord Krishna's garland for you. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribo. And now, because we had Guru Puja early this morning, because we're going off to Kumbh Mela somewhere, we'll be making a couple of quick announcements here, and then we'll sing the prayers in Bengali for Prasadam. And then we'll actually partake of Prasadam. So the first announcement is that we have the Srimad Bhagavatam. We've had sets of Srimad Bhagavatam specifically flown in for the festival of Bhadra Purnima. So we've stocked up our book room, which is the largest room in our temple, with books. With these Srimad Bhagavatam sets that we had specifically flown in. We also have a golden throne, which Avantika will be showing us on the showroom floor. This golden throne is a very substantial book stand. It's made out of metal, and it's a very beautiful golden color. And so this comes with the Srimad Bhagavatam set. The Srimad Bhagavatam sets are $250, and the book stand, if you want it, you don't have to take it with the set, but it's another $50. So for $300, you take the full set of Bhagavatams and the golden throne itself. Bhadra Purnima is mentioned here on this, as Vantika will point out to you, on the poster. And it says here, and the quote, 12:13:13, if on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. So we're counting down only 8 more days until Bhadra Purnima. If you want to have a set, you can text in, call in, write in. You can go to our website. You can go to my Facebook page and you can donate there for a set. We will distribute it for you on Bhadra Purnima. And this is applicable all over the world. We have sets in many different languages, but take advantage of this. And what other announcements do we have this morning? Anyone? Anyone? Prashadam, yes. We'll now announce the cooks.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam was cooked by Bhaktavatsal Prabhu.
Haribol! Tomorrow is Sri Radhashtami. Celebration will be starting at 4:30 a.m. here from Mangalartik. And we'll have a short morning program, and then we'll reconvene at 3 p.m. tomorrow for a full-blown Radhashtami celebration. You'll need a microphone.
Today is Haldara Rupa Prabhuji's birthday.
It is. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Haladara Rupa, your engagement here at ISV over the years has become a symbol of the way devotees become completely successful, who are submissive to the process of devotional service and determined in their service, because you have noticeably risen in the ranks and become a leader here, a leader of Sankirtan, a leader in attendance, showing the example of how to be steady in devotional service in all the different aspects of your life. And literally you're growing up here in devotional service, attending to all the different aspects of your life by connecting with Krishna. So we are so much attached to you, and we're very impressed and enthused by your mode of devotional service. So thank you very much for all that you do from the bottom of our heart. We wish you great success, continued success on the path of devotional service and in every other aspect of your life. Everyone who agrees with these sentiments, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna! That's confirmed, definitely. And
Hare
we
Krishna,
have another
Maharaj.
announcement. Yes.
Day before yesterday, it was birthday of our dear Achyuta Kumar Prabhuji also.
Really?
Here.
Where is it?
Who's here? Who's at the back?
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Achyuta Kumar Prabhu, you have become a symbol of what's the essence of our mission here at ISV. Devotees came to your door and you purchased a set of Srimad Bhagavatams. Correct? And then your life changed. And we all heard about it and watched it, and then we saw you come into our midst and excel in your practice of devotional service. You and your family are setting an example in so many ways. And this is what we're all after, is seeing this as we're distributing Srimad Bhagavatam sets, the sincere souls of the world responding and becoming fully absorbed in devotional service. So when we see you, we always feel the greatest fulfillment to watch your service and surrender of both you and your whole family. So thank you very much. Everyone who agrees with these sentiments, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. That is confirmed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I had a question. So how do I know whether I'm qualified to preach about Krishna? Or what are the steps to getting qualified?
Well, you just have to know more than somebody else, or be more enthusiastic than others. Because we all have various levels of understanding and realizing Krishna consciousness. And there are always going to be those who know less than you do. So Prabhupada used to point out with a little girl named Saraswati, who was the daughter of Shamasundar and Malati, that she would go around and ask people, do you know Krishna? Do you know who he is? And she'd tell him, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Said, you're repeating, that's effective.
Okay.
Best thing is, if you're following sincerely the best of your ability, then you'll have some potency in teaching it to others.
Okay.
The first day Ramananda Sakraprabhu walked into the temple, we were all on our way on Sankirtan. And I said, do you want to come on Sankirtan? He said, what's that? I said, and so when we got out there, we were at a table, and he had never distributed Prabhupada's books before. I think he had started reading them quite a bit, but he wasn't used to the whole environment. But he just watched us for a few minutes. We got really busy. I think it was myself and Dayanidhi Prabhu. And then somebody else came up and they started asking him, what's going on here? So I think I put a Sri Upanishad in his hand and said, here, give it to him. And he went from there. He said, I've heard this is a really good book. And they bought it and gave $10, and he was off and running. So from any situation, if you just appreciate devotional service and begin to hear about it, you can start teaching it to other people and passing it along. And the more you do teach it to others, the more it will grow in your life as well.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, which means I can get into the field of book distribution.
We officially invite you into the field of book distribution today. Everyone agrees, say Hare Krishna. You're invited.
Okay, thank you.
Hare You're in. No, you're definitely qualified. Yes. Avantika.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam was actually cooked in honor of Yashoda Kripa Prabhu's father, who recently passed away.
So this is a very important ceremony because it is enjoined that after someone passes away, that you wait for a week and then you have a grand feast, feed all the devotees. And so today, on behalf of, to celebrate the passing of Yashoda Kripa's father, all the devotees that will be taking prasadam will be honoring that passing and also sending our blessings and good wishes that he comes to Krishna's lotus feet. Okay? Gaur Premanande Haribo. Sharirat Vijaja Jotendriya Taheka Jibe Pele Bishaya Shagore Dharma Jeji Boyati Lobo Moisu Durmati Take Jeta Katita Shangsare Krishna Bodo Doyamoy Koribare Jivajai Shaprashad Anna Diloba Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunaga Premedako Shri Chaitanya Nita Premedako Shri Chaitanya Nita Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sopa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naivajayate Prasade Sarvatukanam Hanirasyo Pajayate Prasana Chetaso Yashu Buddhi Parya Vatishyate Trayopa Bhukta Shraganda Vasulankara Charchitaha Uchishta Bojino Dasas Taiva Mayam Jaimahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasada Ki Go Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Please come take prasadam. Haribo. Vanchakobdurvisha kripasinabhevacha patitanam bhavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Tinjaya.